Hi, my name is Matthew Bellisario. Thank you for coming by the BellisarioSonic YouTube channel from the heart of the Deep South on the outskirts of Birmingham, Alabama, where we talk about music, records, do record reviews, interviews, and much more. A lot of the record reviews you're going to see on this channel are going to be of artists you're probably not going to hear about on other channels. But today we are taking a look at Quincy Jones, who unfortunately now we're looking at his career in retrospect because he just passed away. What you hear playing is one of his early records from 1959 called The Great Wide World of Quincy Jones. Today's video is going to be called the jazz side of Quincy Jones because I think it's probably the least known portion of his career, which would be the 50s through the 60s. And pretty much Quincy's career through the 50s and the 60s was pretty much jazz oriented. He hung out with the jazz people. He conducted his own bop orchestra, big band. He became more well known later as a music producer, an arranger, a collaborator. Of course, those big Michael Jackson albums, Thriller, Bad, Off the Wall, all his productions, and really those catapulted him into stardom because those records sold so many millions of albums. But when we go back and take a look at his early career, if you want to go back and look at his recording career starting in 1955 with the MRC label, would be his first album. But really the ones that put him on the map were the Mercury label releases. This is one of the ones we're listening to right now called The Great Wide World of Quincy Jones, again, 1959. This is a UK release. Pretty cool. But we're listening to it here in the background. You can hear it playing. And this was where he started. I'll be showing you two other releases. I only have 3 albums of Quincy Jones, and they're all from his early period. Me being a jazz fan, not hard to figure out there. But between 1959 and 1961, he would put out 6 albums on the Mercury label. One of them would be The Birth of a Band, which would be a huge success for him, relatively speaking, for that time period. And then this one here would also be a very big hit for him, starting his career off. Of course, this completely changing later. Once you get to the late 60s, he's moved on. He's getting into soundtracks. He's collaborating with more people. But even though he's doing these types of records in the 50s and 60s of his own, he's also doing collaborations with people. So, for example, he's playing as a sideman with Lionel Hampton, Clifford Brown, Art Farmer, Dizzy Gillespie. Then he comes in and starts collaborating as conductor, a composer, an arranger with Cannonball Adderley, for example. He later on in the 70s collaborates as an arranger with Herb Alpert, who is a huge, very big name in the 70s and early 80s. Collaborates with Patty Austin in the 80s. But if you look back to his jazz roots, he's collaborating with Count Basie Orchestra, for example, in the late 50s and early 60s. He's collaborating with Tony Bennett on the Movie Song album, 1966. Collaborates with George Benson on the Give Me the Night album, 1980, which puts George Benson on the map. Go back earlier, 1955, he's collaborating with Big Maybell. Clifford Brown and Art Farmer, 1956. Betty Carter, 1955. Ray Charles, big deal for him, 1956, the great Ray Charles. 1959, the genius of Ray Charles. Genius plus soul equals jazz in 1960. Those are all his arrangements. So he becomes a very big name all the way back beginning in the 50s and early 60s. Going into the 70s, he collaborates with Aretha Franklin, Donny Hathaway in the 70s. Of course, Michael Jackson, that I just mentioned. Those albums really sent him into another category, if you will. But let's go take a look at more of the jazz collaborations. Sonny Stitt, 1955. Frank Sinatra with Count Basie, 64, 66. Sarah Vaughan, collaborates with her with several albums, 59, 62, 64, and 65. Dinah Washington as well on the MRC label, the mid to late 50s. So those are just some of the jazz collaborations. So what I'm doing now is I'm listening to this album here from 1959. Again, it's a UK pressing. But I'm going to show you two other ones that are interesting. You can find these because they're Japanese pressings of releases that had not been released up to this point from that 59, 60, 61 period. One of them is The Great Wide World of Quincy Jones Live. This is 1984. Didn't come out until then on the Japanese label, but this is him. This record that we're hearing here from the studio, he took on the road. And this is the recordings of that from Zurich. And this is on a Japanese label, Mercury. And again, these are archive releases. And the other one would be Birth of a Band, Volume 2. Again, I mentioned in 1959, Birth of a Band came out. The original release, but this is a Volume 2 that was released later on in 1984 on the Japanese Mercury label. And there's some of the tunes. I'm going to go ahead and put this on in a minute. Go ahead and show you the label. Talk a little bit about Quincy Jones, just in general, some basic information. Now I'll play a little bit in celebration of him from a jazz perspective from these three albums here. But he was born in 1933 in Chicago, Illinois. Of course, he just passed away recently in Los Angeles, California at the age of 91. So he had a very long career and was active pretty much throughout the entire, his entire life, adult life. Basically started playing music back in 1951, getting into that. He was a trumpet player back when he first started out in 1951 and had a career that lasted all the way to now, 2024. Of course, he has several awards and, again, just a really fabulous, notorious musical career. From CBS's stage show back in 1956, which was hosted by Jimmy and Tommy Dorsey. He gets involved with Dizzy Gillespie, ABC Paramount. Of course, these albums here on the Mercury label, and pretty much everything kind of starts to take off. 1961, Jones became the vice president of Mercury and the first African-American ever to hold that position. So very big deal. And of course, these Mercury releases here that we're listening to is really where he started. And so I think it's kind of cool to go back and look at, listen to the music from that period of where it all started for him. So rather than focus on all the albums that we all know about that he produced and collaborated with. He also did a lot of film, soundtrack songs and things like that. So again, we're listening to this from 1959, a UK pressing. Let this song play, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put on the live album again that came out in 1984. And you can see some of these early big band where he's conducting these big bands on YouTube, so you go check those out. So I'm going to drop on the live Great Wide World of Quincy Jones. And we'll listen to going to listen to? We'll listen to Airmail Special. This album's not in the best shape. You can hear little ticks and crackles. It's an old record. It's an original pressing from 1959. And actually, this, if I'm trying to remember, this might actually be a 60 release on the UK label. Even though the album came out in 59, I think that I'm going to look it up on Discogs here. I got it saved in here somewhere. Let's see, Quincy. Great Wide World of Quincy Jones, Mercury, UK, 1960. So the one we're listening to now is a 60 pressing. Which is an EMI limited Great Britain pressing. Right, so I'm going to put on the live version now. Let me grab the sleeve here. We'll put that on, and I'll give you a glimpse here of what the label looks like. It's kind of a cool label for a Mercury label, at least I think. I always like all these different cool looking labels, ones you don't see too often. I don't have a lot that are like this, but this is a Mercury label here. You can see here. Kind of a neat looking label. Again, 1960, and has the EMI at the top, manufactured in Great Britain. So that's kind of cool. And I think I picked this up online some years ago. I don't remember where. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to drop on this Mercury stereo, the Great Wide World of Quincy Jones live. Side 1, and then this is again a 1984 pressing, and this is when it was actually released. And again, it's like archival recordings that came from the same period, but this is a live recording. So up until this point, 1984, the live recording had never been released before. So you can find these online. Fairly inexpensive, 10 or 15 bucks probably. But again, it's kind of cool just because a lot of people probably don't know a lot about this period of his career. And so I thought it'd be fun just to play some of these records for y'all. This was called Airmail Special. Really fun record to listen to. I definitely recommend this. You got a lot of great players on here. Freddie Hubbard, Curtis Fuller, Phil Woods, Bud Johnson, Sahih Shihab, Pretty nice sounding record too. I mean, it's kind of a bright sounding live record. Just a lot of fun because you hear them bantering back and forth, and it just sounds like they're having a blast. Stu Martin on drums. And then to close out, I'm going to play a tune off of this album for you. Yeah, really cool. I'm going to listen to another tune off of it, and then I'm going to go ahead and put on a song off this other record. But you can find these. I would definitely, if you want to pick up some of his early stuff, I would definitely recommend this. And again, Japanese pressing, but you can find them fairly inexpensive, or at least I did. So yeah, again, nice sounding record. It's a bit on the bright side, I wouldn't say it's an audiophile type recording, but just a fun record to listen to. All right, again on the Mercury label, man, these are to me the ones that go after to pick up if you want to get into the jazz side of his record. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off and I'm going to put on side one, which has Moanin on it, which is a kind of a cool, unique version, a unique arrangement of Moanin. So I'm going to play that for you to close out the video. And again, just my little tribute to a great musical legacy. But this is again an '84 Japanese pressing, and they're going back and getting recordings during the same time that the original album had come out in '59. So let's go ahead and put on Moanin and have a listen and close out the video. Leave your comments on what you think about Quincy Jones and what albums are your favorite, if you've got into his jazz stuff or not, and your thoughts. So let's close it out with Moanin, his own version here. Of course, it's a Bobby Timmons tune. Clark Terry on the flugelhorn. Bit more of a kind of laid back type version. Nice swinging feel. This is a nice sounding album. Been a while since I've listened to this. Has a bit of an airy kind of light sound atmosphere. A bit on the bright side. But it does have some nice resonance and warmth to it. So another fun record. All right, folks, just a little celebration of the jazz side of Quincy Jones. And again, you can only find these on the Japanese label, the Japanese Mercury label. Pretty cool. So I leave you with that. Happy listening to everybody out there. Leave your comments. Let me know what your favorite albums that he produced were. And let me know if you got into the jazz, these Mercury records. Releases that he did. So all right, happy listening to all you out there. Take care.